Today, I was planning to make a video about the 3 brand new locations being added to Battlefield 5's Firestorm map, because I thought some people would be interested in that, and when a map change comes along, I think it's important to know how that's going to affect the matches that you end up playing on it. But instead, I'm just going to have to talk about the wider Firestorm topic, because, well, there's a lot of talk going on about the mode specifically, how it's not performing very well, and in general, just how it's being handled by the development team. Now, I'm going to give my opinion on quite a lot of things today, and I know my views won't match up with a lot of your views out there, so if you have your own opinion on what I'm talking about, or any of the topics, then you can use the comment section to share that if you want to. So first of all then, we've got to talk about the Duos mode. Duos was introduced a couple of weeks after the full launch of Firestorm as a third way to play the game mode, matchmaking with just one other player and offering a different dynamic to solos and squads. Now, DICE said from the very beginning that Duos would be a limited time offering, much to the disappointment of the people excited for the game mode, and that it would only be available for 4 days over the weekend to gather data on how the construct would work compared to solos and squads. Now, the core community, once those 4 days had passed, expressed their disappointment that Duos had been taken away and asked for it to be added back into the game permanently. Because of this feedback, DICE did enable Duos again on April the 18th and said via the official Battlefield Twitter account that they would be monitoring popularity across all game modes and they'd make changes to maintain an overall experience for the game. And then on May 9th, DICE took that decision to take Duos offline again after stating that Squads was a more popular experience and Duos had seen less uptake. This wasn't met by a great response from the community, but this is part of why I'm making this video today. The fact that Duos got taken offline. It's really indicative of what's happening overall with Firestorm at the moment. Firestorm isn't a popular enough Battle Royale mode to sustain a healthy player base. Matchmaking times are getting longer in less populated areas of the world, and in areas like Australia and New Zealand, Firestorm isn't even a playable game mode. It's there and you can matchmake for it, but you're rarely ever going to get a game. This Reddit post from a player located in that region says that wait times for matches are over 10 minutes on average, and pings are so high that it makes for a really bad gameplay experience because eventually they're put into servers that are out of their region. So they have a worse experience than everyone else playing on that server. To me, with the stories that we're now seeing popping up that are quite similar to this, it appears that Firestorm just isn't retaining the players perhaps in the way that EA had planned for it to, by making Firestorm part of the Battlefield 5 package and trying to draw people into Battlefield 5 in that way. Now, before Firestorm's launch, a large section of the core community, including myself, we did say that if the mode was packaged into Battlefield 5 and placed behind a $60 price tag, the mode would suffer, and it wouldn't be able to compete with other battle royales of the gaming world at the time, like Fortnite and PUBG. The mode could have also had a lot more freedom when it came to content like weapons and gadgets, and even cosmetics and further on. And when it comes to the setting as well, perhaps the game mode wouldn't needed to have been tied to World War II, which obviously is quite limiting. And so, the situation has now come to be. Firestorm just doesn't have enough active players, a little over 6 weeks after it was released, and that is a massive shame. It's a massive shame for the players who looked forward to the game mode and who wanted a Battle Royale experience on the Frostbite engine, and I'd say it's also a massive shame for all of the developers who worked on it. The Criterion studio worked really hard on Firestorm, and in my opinion, created a really solid take on the classic Battle Royale formula, and to see all of that work from a huge number of people die off so quickly, that is really, really disappointing. I think it's clear that by making Firestorm a segment of the Battlefield 5 package, rather than releasing it as a standalone product, the wider popularity of Firestorm to general gamers outside the Battlefield ecosystem, that took a massive hit from the outset, from the moment that it was announced to be part of Battlefield 5. It's clear that by making Firestorm a segment of the Battlefield 5 package, rather than releasing it as a standalone product, that the wider popularity of the mode took a massive hit from the moment it was announced that it was part of Battlefield 5. Now, I'm not saying that Firestorm is the best Battle Royale ever made and nobody's playing it and it doesn't have any issues. It does have some issues, and the issues that it has are rather important ones. You can look at the looting as an example. The items still scatter everywhere after you kill somebody, even after the initial update. And sometimes things get stuck inside rocks as well, and that's really, really annoying. That's a big put-off for potential players. Those potential players see those issues, and then they see that Firestorm is behind a paywall as well, so you can then understand why people don't want to buy into that experience. Who wants to pay money for a Battle Royale mode that isn't as smooth and slick as something like Apex Legends or Fortnite, which doesn't have a paywall barrier to it? It is also worth remembering that when EA and DICE announced Firestorm as part of Battlefield 5, we were in the midst of a rather dismal marketing campaign that had failed to properly tell Battlefield fans what Battlefield 5 really was. And so by further complicating that with a Battle Royale mode tacked on after launch, coming well after the launch of the main product, that didn't really spur on much more positive conversation. And I do remember at the time many people in the core community voicing concern that the mode would detract from the rest of the main game, the standard multiplayer experience that we've all come to expect from Battlefield titles. Now, it's transpired that those concerns weren't entirely founded, since Firestorm was made mostly by the Criterion team, a completely separate development team. But now when you look at the post-launch timeline so far for Battlefield 5, and you look at the lack of standard multiplayer content, the important stuff, like multiplayer maps, you can see that partially, those people were right to be concerned about the Firestorm game mode being part of Battlefield 5. But what's most concerning to me as a Battlefield 5 fan, a Firestorm fan, and a regular player of this game is the fact that Firestorm is starting to dry up even before the end of the chapter that it's supposed to headline. Chapter 3, Trial by Fire, was pitched almost entirely around the Firestorm game mode, and we're still a few weeks away from that chapter ending, and the mode is starting to suffer when it comes to player numbers. That's not a good look, and it further reinforces that perhaps Firestorm being a part of Battlefield 5 was the wrong decision. By placing the mode behind the pay barrier, that $60 marker, you disincentivize potential new players from buying in, because they live in a gaming world where Battle Royale games are now free to play. The rise of Apex Legends as a free-to-play game from the same publisher followed the trend set by Fortnite, which launched as a free-to-play early access spin-off of the base PvE experience. Fortnite's success can partly be associated with the quick-wittedness of Epic Games and its partnerships with mainstream things like Marvel's Avengers. That's always going to help, but a huge portion of its initial success came because the game cost absolutely nothing to access and nothing to play. You could download the game across a few platforms, and then after a few weeks you were playing against huge numbers of other players around the world because nobody had any barrier to entry. Battle Royale as a game mode is inherently simple, and there's really not that much to it, so offering out what is a very small experience for free, that makes sense to me. And the Fortnite team capitalised on that, and they just ran away with the genre. Now, because EA, DICE and Criterion chose to lock their Battle Royale experience behind a paywall, that alone, I believe, is the biggest issue that Firestorm faces right now. It's not an attractive enough offering, and it's not getting people through the door. That price tag that's attached to it, that's its biggest problem. The actual gameplay within the mode is really good, and I still see it as a big competitor to PUBG, but take that price tag off and make it free to play, and suddenly gamers don't have a reason not to give it a go and see if they like it. If they do like it, then maybe you've got more players sticking around, playing the game, filling the servers, and populating the experience. Perhaps regions like Australia and New Zealand would have more players and a less frustrating time trying to find matches. And not only that, making Firestorm free to play would be a great onboarding experience for the rest of Battlefield 5. You'd have a free point of entry into the franchise that embodies what Battlefield multiplayer is all about. You've got great gunplay, you've got little pockets of battles happening all over the map, you've got vehicles clashing with infantry and the events that unfold from there, you've got destruction of nearly all the assets on the map, you've got team play with modes like squads and duos, and you get an introduction into the customization and grind systems within the game as well. By making Firestorm free to play, EA and DICE would, at the very least, be giving Firestorm a chance to compete in the market. Now, of course, there's absolutely no guarantee that success would come to Firestorm just by making it free to play, but the chance for it to pick up fans would become much easier. If Fortnite's Battle Royale mode had been locked behind the PvE paywall when it launched, would that game have had as much success as it's had? It's hard to say for sure, but initial pickup of that Fortnite Battle Royale mode wouldn't have been as fast, because people would have had to have decided if they wanted to spend a bit of money on what was then a completely unproven game. Now, Firestorm, that was completely unproven when it launched, and it was behind a $60 price tag. Uptake of the mode with brand new players hasn't been particularly brilliant, and we're now starting to see matchmaking issues appear due to lack of players. Take away the barrier to entry, and who knows, maybe Firestorm might stand more of a chance in the Battle Royale market. But to really show players that they are behind Firestorm and actively trying to keep people engaged, I think DICE needs to be updating Firestorm a lot more regularly. We are about to see 3 new map changes coming in a couple of weeks, with Watchtowers, Blue Forest and Excavation Site being added to the map, and that will change up gameplay in those areas, but I think DICE needs to be handling Firestorm with a weekly cadence. They need to be rotating weapons in and out more regularly. Maybe some weekend events where vehicle presence on the map is increased, just as a limited time thing, and then it goes back to normal. Introducing some community-wide missions where if a certain amount of kills are scored in Firestorm over a week period, that every player gets a brand new weapon skin or something. Right now, DICE isn't handling Firestorm with the urgency it needs to really compete in the Battle Royale space. And yes, I know we're only 6 weeks past the launch of the mode, but the mode is starting to die off. And if DICE don't start trying to do something with a bit more urgency, then the mode is going to die, and it will become another dead meme in a game that already has too many dead memes, in my opinion. DICE need to start scoring some wins with Battlefield 5, and Firestorm is just this massive bucket of potential. But the potential is being wasted, and it's on the edge of being totally unrevivable. DICE needs to act now, and they need to act big if they want to save a game mode that took a lot of development time and resources to make. It'd be a massive shame to see Firestorm die so soon after its launch. But there you are, that's my opinion on Firestorm and what I think DICE needs to consider if they want it to compete and have the potential to succeed. There's no guarantee of success, but they can do more than they're doing now to try and make a success of Firestorm. Let me know your opinion down below in the comments section if you've got one. You don't have to leave anything if you don't want to, but I always enjoy reading through some opinions that are different from my own. It's nice to get a different perspective from other people out there. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.